Hey guys, welcome to another Plant Chores video. This one is going to be short and sweet but still packed with information. I have to seriously prioritize what I do during this time because I probably only have like an hour and a half to play with, including the commute from the west to the east. So the things that I'm getting done in this video are crucial. It's stuff that I will not look over. It's basically how I prioritize my chores when I don't have a lot of time to play with. Basically, we're looking for quick wins and extreme situations that need correcting. So, if you are new here, thank you for joining us. If you are returning, thank you so much for coming back. Everything that I mention or that you see, once I can link it in the description, I will do so. If I do forget anything, please feel free to comment below or message me on Instagram. I'll be so happy to share additional information. Just a quick heads up, so I will be taking propagations, checking on new props to see what has rooted, potting up whatever can be potted up, and checking on older propagations just to see how those are progressing. I also get into some pest treatments for snails and just some general upkeep and care. Let's start with a walkthrough and make some assessments to see what has to be done. Some things seem to have toppled over here, so I'm just going to fix that back. Any quick wins, I'll do that. These are my ghost cactus props. Whoa, those are really well rooted, so we're going to pot those up today. This is just a yellowing Pedata radiatum leaf, so I'll just get rid of that. This looks to be pretty dehydrated. I'll probably chop that. In my previous plant chores video, I treated both of these plants, that's my alocasia stingray and my Mickey Mouse taro, for spider mites, where I wiped all the leaves down with an alcohol dilution and then sprayed with Cephas Endol. I'm happy to report that both of them are giving me new leaves now. Over here, something passed through here as well, broke off this leaf on my Colocasia Hilo Beauty. This plant I'll pop a picture of for you to see what it was like. I cannot believe the state of that one. It is completely decimated. However, the roots are still intact. In a case like this, I would just leave it to catch back itself, to be honest. The roots are fine, so hopefully it'll just grow back the foliage. On further investigation, I found the culprit, this snail. I'm just going to add some Captain Jack's bug and slug killer and hope for the best in the future. The background noise that you're hearing is the afternoon showers that I mentioned in my greenhouse video that always happens in the afternoon where I've moved to. So just excuse it, it will stop shortly. This is my Anthurium pterodactyl hybrid. Well, I'm assuming it's a pterodactyl hybrid, having had some discussions with other hobbyists. I really don't have an idea on it. It's not one I feature very often, possibly because it is so easy care that I really never have much to say. But in this case, I do have some exposed roots that you saw before that I'm just going to cover with some Anthurium mix. I always have a moss collar going on my Anthuriums to encourage the more mature part of the stem to continue rooting so that it's always sizing up for me, and this also encourages the development of plantlets. This one in particular puts out plantlets for me, but not all Anthuriums do this. This is a wet stick prop of my Florida Beauty. The first activated node produced no variegation. However, this second node that activated is giving me variegation, and this is just a reason why I do not toss out wet sticks. I give every node a chance. Let me know if you'd be interested in seeing the different ways I propagate. I could do a dedicated video on that. Just comment below and I can make it. Here's a fallen trellis. This supports my Begonia maculata. This has to be the doing of the iguana again. I'm just going to fix that. Just put it upright. I'll probably have to re-stake it as it's quite wobbly, but I'll just put it upright for now. These are some props that I have in water. That's my Philodendron Andrianum. This is another prop of my Cebu pothos, a mature cutting. My Monstera adansonii got totally decimated. That's the iguana chewing off all the top foliage. I'm probably going to have to chop and prop that. This is my Philodendron pedatum prop. Squash, the new leaf got broken off from something traversing, or maybe a snail munched that one. These are some fallen branches from the kaimate tree that shades everything above. My luxurians is not doing the greatest. This is my Aglionema pictum tricolor. Again, the iguana has just been taking it out. I'm going to have to chop and prop this completely. The photo on the screen is what it used to look like. I just made a clean cut and I'll probably just put it in water to root. My philodendron brandy has been partially devoured, probably 50% devoured looking at this. I'm gonna definitely have to move it. This is the iguana coming down from the kaimate tree, mounting itself onto that pillar and just having a feast on my brandy. I'm definitely gonna have to move it. Here's a syngonium you don't see very often, Syngonium erythrophyllum. Mine actually needs to be staked right now. I got this wooden stake from Centriscape. I will link everything in the description. So I just used a twist tie and a couple clips to fasten it to the stake. I'm hoping it attaches on its own after that and begins to climb. I would love for these leaves to size up. I don't know if any of you guys have this plant already and you have it climbing. I would love to see how it's transforming as it climbs, if the leaves are increasing in size. In this section, I have the majority of my Hoyas, and something was missing from that top shelf, and it's my Polyneuria. This grows in Leca. It was totally uprooted. I'm gonna have to repot this. It has a new leaf. It has really good roots. It shouldn't be too badly off. I'll probably just put some fresh leca in there. But this cutting totally rotted. I'll just toss that away. This one I'll try and salvage. The roots look fine. This is my nebula that I repotted recently. It is pretty sad right now, but a new leaf is actually on the way, so I'm not too bothered about it. They usually have a tantrum when repotted. This is my Ace of Spades dark form. It is totally covered in mud. I'm gonna have to clean this up. It has finally given me a somewhat proper leaf as compared to the one that previously grew that was just deformed. This one is not symmetrical, but still whole, I would say. So I'm really hoping for this one to reestablish itself. I got it from Evergreen Plants. Everything that I mention or you see, I will link in the description as best as I could anyway. So I'm going to try and mount it or place it off the ground. I use these plastic lids just so that I could gain a little height. And I'm just going to position it to receive light from the front. And that should be it there. This is my Anthurium forgetii dark form, and the roots are above soil or above even the moss. So I'm just gonna deal with this. Again, another quick win before we actually get into any sort of intense work. So I'm gonna just top it off with soil. And this is what I mean by quick wins. Anything that we can get done, in a couple minutes. I just kind of get that out of the way before I settle down. It's actually pushing a new leaf and an inflow. So it makes sense just to top it off with moss alone and not interfere with the roots. This also needs moss on the top. So my ghost cactus cuttings seem to be rooted pretty well. In that video that popped up there, I explained how exactly I set them up to be rooted. I will put it in the end screen as well as in the description if you want to take a look at that video next. But it's actually pushing new growth now. But in essence, I just put it in water after it's calloused. I don't fill the vessel pretty high up at all. It really just kisses the base of the wound, and I just leave it for about 2 weeks and they have rooted pretty good. They're actually ready to be potted up. I am gonna basically lay them out just to gauge what size pot to use. So I've got 3 to pot up and I'm just going to use these 3-inch pots. I'm going to use the same cacti and succulent mix that I got from Grow Right. Remember, you can mention me in store to get 10% discount. When I'm potting up props for the first time, I never fill the pot completely with soil just to prevent any rotting. So I just halfway fill the scoop and it lines up with the halfway mark in the pot as well. And I just settle it by giving it a little shake and then place the cuttings on top. So the first one I'm doing is the smallest. The roots look great. I just place that in the middle. I just poke it in, stabilize it. So I've stabilized this one by just pushing down on the soil. This one has a section that's lateral that has it floating a little bit, so I'm just going to top it up with some soil just to cover the exposed roots, like this. I'm just going to shake it to settle the soil evenly around and just tuck it with my fingers like that to stabilize it, ensuring that the roots are making good contact with the substrate. And lastly, I have the biggest section. This one has a lot of arms, so I'm just going to leave it floating here for now. When I say floating, I just have the arms supporting the cutting or the section in the pot, and I'm going to backfill it with soil once I've laid it down, just like that. And I'm just going to use this old toothbrush to remove any soil that got lodged on any of the sections. This is just to prevent rot in case water settles there and the soil is there. It could also prevent bacterial infection. So I remove as much soil as possible and then settle it, make sure that the soil has settled properly and the cutting is secured in the pot. So I now have 3 new little plants, and well, it was a no-brainer for me to just put it back by the mother plant as it's thriving there. And to me, this is the best spot to just continue to grow them in. I'm not sure if y'all watched this video, but in that one, I actually uprooted the mother plant to rehab that, and I had just left this pot behind to clean up at a later date. And well, today is that later date, about a week and a half after, and there was another cortex buried there. So now I'm potting this one up. I'm hoping to have a backup now. This is some cacti and succulent mix that I got from Grow Right. I'm just putting it in a terracotta pot and setting it up the same way as I did the mother plant. This is the cortex here that I've now treated with cinnamon to prevent any sort of fungal infection. I've buried that exposed root now, but the cortex I've left above soil just to prevent any rotting. It is grown above soil anyway, and I just placed it next to the mother plant here that seems to be deteriorating. So I'm not sure if this setup is even going to work, but we'll see later down the road if it did or not. If you've done this before, please message me in the comments with any advice. After potting up the Stephania erecta, I noticed that this alocasia that I got from Countryside Blooms was completely eaten away by grasshoppers. My Frydek fell over and my Synapsis platinum was totally off the shelf. Not even the nursery pot was there. I have no idea how these things fell off. I don't know if it was high winds or the same iguana just passing through and doing its thing. I spotted the nursery pot. Tell me if you saw it all the way across here under my gloriosum. So it really went flying clearly. Just to give you an idea of distance, this is how far it went. Crazy. This was the week after I popped back in to do some more plant chores. I'm just checking in on these props in my prop box. That's my peperomia tubulensis. I put it in here to root. It's just in water alone. It hasn't started rooting, but it also hasn't rotted, which is a good sign for me. This was the Stephania erecta that we potted up last week. This was the original one. It has completely rotted and deflated. So I'm going to have to come to terms with the fact that this is no longer salvageable. But I still have the one that we potted up last week, so I'm hoping. That wraps up this video. I hope you guys got some useful information. If you enjoyed it, please remember to like and subscribe. Drop me a comment on what you would like me to film next for y'all. The ideas that I have pending are repotting my Monstera Thai constellation, as well as doing an updates video on the past chores that I've done to show you guys progress in terms of new repots, how they are thriving, how the propagations are thriving. So if you want to see an updates video, that's also an option. Or if you want to see another wish list video or plants that I have in tow, please just drop me a comment below and I can get started on those.